Alright, this is Brave Athletes, Chimp versus Prof, the two sides of our brain. It's based off the book, The Brave Athlete, Calm Down. So inside the head of every athlete are two very distinct parts of the brain that are vying for control of our thoughts and feelings. So as athletes, if we can learn to compartmentalize our thoughts and direct them to which parts of the brain these are using, then we can better be able to manage our emotions on race day or during events that might cause some anxiety. There are 3 deliverables for this, so there's an activity involving the chimp brain, the professor brain, and a final activity of defining moments. So first, we have to look at our brain. First, there is the limbic system, which reacts only to drives and instincts that you experience as feelings and impressions. Then there is a frontal cortex, which deals with facts and logic and guides empathy, moral judgment, and social conscience. For the purpose of this, the limbic system is going to be called our chimp brain, and the frontal cortex is known as the professor. Our chimp brain. So this helps us survive and react. Meet your inner primate. Scientific studies in neuroscience and cognitive psychology have proven that our chimp brain is actually a very tough little guy. Our chimp brain was bestowed with biochemical powers called neurotransmitters, and it actually enables us to bully our professor brain into submission. Instead of being a polite and respectful neighbor, our chimp brain sets up camp in our basement and just starts to beat the crap out of you. So here are some facts about your chimp brain. Your chimp brain controls the fight, flight, or freeze response, which is a powerful response to danger. It is the first responder to all sensory information. Research has shown that our chimp brain processes and reacts to sensory input data up to 5 times quicker than our professor brain. It maintains a very strong drive for food, power, ego, being accepted by others, security, and inquisitiveness, and so on. Your chimp brain is also motivated to protect these drives at all times. Your chimp brain only thinks in black and white. There is no gray, it's only right or wrong. And as a result, it's paranoid, as a result of a deep-seated need for safety. It's extremely hypervigilant about protecting you, and often elevates threats to catastrophic. They're always a matter of life or death. It acts irrationally, and never mind if it's actually reasonable or feasible. It's infallible, final, and merciless. So, basically, your chimp brain is an over-emotional roommate that is fixated on preserving basic drives or instincts using feelings and impressions, even though you never asked for help. Your chimp brain screams at you to make sure that you hear, and worry and anxiety are typically the end result. Here are just a few examples of the havoc that your chimp creates around your athletic performance. What if I get dropped? I have to race well for my coach. If I don't get on the podium, this race will be for nothing. I look like an overstuffed sausage in this outfit. If I have a bad race, someone will write me off. Or the gazillions of other things that make us feel miserable. Chimp moment. So in your journal, think of some athletic situations that might provoke a chimp response or question. Some examples might be the sound of an air horn, tipping. The chimp brain is not all bad. Our chimp brain helps us act on instinct. It keeps us safe. Our chimp brain deals with feelings, impressions, and emotions, and is based on instincts and drives. Now we get into the professor brain. Our professor brain helps us thrive and respond. Meet your professor brain. This is your voice of reason. Your professor brain is the only part of you that can actually think, in the sense that it can be conscious, of course. It does the intellectual heavy lifting required of good decisions. However, here's the most important part to remember about your professor brain. It deals only with facts, truth, and logic. If your professor brain was in charge, you'd make smart, rational decisions all the time. However, because it takes time to weigh up pros and cons, consider alternatives, and think through rules and regulations, your professor brain is notoriously slow. When the chimp releases powerful neurotransmitters during decision-making process, your professor brain often gets pushed aside or tricked. Prof moment. So in your journal, think of some athletic situations that might provoke a professor response. Examples might be a race plan or a warm-up. This isn't really a third part of your brain, but it's the operating system. It's not technically a brain on its own, but more of a function of the many different regions that help you run programs like the chimp brain and the professor brain. It also uses your memory banks to shape expectations you have of people and situations. Like a reference book, it stores information about your beliefs and values. We need a computer brain because much of what we think and do must be automated in order to cope with the sheer number of decisions that need to be made every day. When we learn skills well, we turn them over to the computer brain to manage. When the chimp brain stores information on the computer, it is based on chimp logic, which is paranoid, catastrophic, and fear-based. When the professor stores information on the computer, it is based on professor logic, which is facts and reasoning. Your computer brain has a limitless capacity for storage, but things that are associated with strong emotion get special treatment. Often we don't focus on facts and logic, but instead recall only emotionally charged experiences to help us determine how we feel about something. In some instances, this creates an extreme pattern of behavior that defies logic and reason, but persists anyways. This is what causes phobias or irrational fears. These brain systems all fight for control. So we have to try to find balance. In our final activity, in your journal, write down 2 situations in your life, in detail, that have been defining moments for you. Try and identify which parts were fueled by your chimp brain and which parts were fueled by your professor brain. This will lead into our next lesson, which is on the athlete's schema.